So hello, everyone. I'm Laura from Hardie Grant Publishing, representing the Hardie Grant Books, Explore, Kids, Pantera Press and Ultimo Press lists. And I have got a wonderful selection of titles to talk to you about today. And then we've got a lovely author video coming up at the end, which I'm very excited to watch with you all. Kicking off with some fiction titles, which okay, so very excited to have Sean McAuliffe on our list for fiction this time around. We've had him for a memoir and also for some kids' books, but we're very happy to have him for adult fiction. So this is a delightfully nutty madcap story of a vampire named Comte d'Arth, who is getting really quite bored of immortality, not to mention dealing with his workforce of undead employees who have decided to unionize. Such a bore. And so he goes on a quest to attain mortality. It is full of caricatures of real historical figures, very clever jokes, very dumb jokes, and Sean's unmistakable satirical humour. Sean will be touring the East Coast around pub date, and he'll also be on our screens, TV screens again in 2026 with a new series on the ABC and the second season of Origin Odyssey on SBS. But yes, I highly recommend this one. It is very fun, very silly. Then we've got The Society of Literary Marauders from Sasha Wasley. This is coming from Pantera Press. This is wonderfully crafted historical fiction set in the late 1920s. It follows the lives of 4 young women who've been accepted into Oxford University's women's program. And they soon find out that there are certain books which they are not permitted to read because apparently they're not suitable for young ladies. So they decide to form a secret society with the goal to obtain as many of these books as possible by whatever means necessary, so that they can read them and decide for themselves whether or not they are suitable for lovely young ladies. It's really fun, beautiful escapist fiction with incredibly compelling, fascinating characters, and a beautiful cover to boot. Then we've got Mantle from Romy Ash. This is an absolutely stunning work of literary fiction. It is completely unique. It's quite confronting at times, and at times it's almost bizarre, but it will stay with you long after you put the book down. Beautiful, beautiful writing. We will be hearing from Romy along with Robert Watkins, the publisher, after my presentation, so stay tuned for more. Then we've got Goodbye, My Love from Yumna Kassab. This is a follow-up to the hauntingly beautiful book, The Lovers, which followed the blossoming of a great love. This book follows the inescapable decline and death of that relationship and then the aftermath. Yumna is an incredibly talented author. The Lovers was shortlisted for the Miles Franklin Award, the Prime Minister's Literary Awards, and the Victorian Premier's Literary Awards. And her book Politica was longlisted for the Miles Franklin Literary Award and was shortlisted for the Queensland Literary Award for Fiction. Yumna was also the inaugural Parramatta Laureate for Literature in 2024 and 2025. Incredibly talented woman. Then we have The Boys from Holden Shepherd. This is another one coming from Pantera Press. It is the sequel to Invisible Boys, which sold 12,500 copies through Bookscan and was adapted into a critically acclaimed TV series on Stan in 2025. Invisible Boys, you will remember, was a YA book. This is very much an adult book. So Holden describes it as the older punk brother to Invisible Boys. It returns to the 3 main characters 7 years after we last left them, and follows their complex lives as they find their way back to each other and each find their own ways to grow from boys into men. No God But Us from Bobak Syed is a beautiful, sensual, very complex story, literary novel following 2 queer Afghan men who've been cast out of their homes, one from the US and one from Iran, who collide in Istanbul among a vibrant underground community of dissidents, sex workers, activists, poets, and heretics. As the country surges towards an authoritarian future, the 2 men are forced to confront their own secrets, identities, and willingness to sacrifice everything for the ones they love. Bobak is a bold new voice, and we are absolutely thrilled to have them on our list. And then we've got I Made This Just For You from Chris Ames. This is a fascinating collection of unique, thought-provoking, and at times quite confronting short stories that really brings the modern world into sharp relief and asks uncomfortable questions about the society that we live in. It's clever, incisive, funny, strange, savage, and very insightful. And really cool cover on it. Then we've got Time Travel for Beginners from Jacqueline Moriarty. Very excited to have her on Ultimo Press's list. So this is a charming, thoughtful, extraordinary book from Jacqueline Moriarty, which follows three strangers brought together by one remarkable travel agency, which offers a unique experience, the opportunity to travel back in time, which of course can't be real, right? So when we were given our reading copies of Time Travel for Beginners, we were also given a note from Jackie, which I really feel just encapsulates how delightful and quirky and creative she is. So I just wanted to read a bit of it out to you. Dear Hardie Grant staff, the idea for Time Travel for Beginners came to me 2 decades ago. It was a rainy day in Sydney and I was riding a bus. Through the window, I saw a time travel agency. A time travel agency? My mouth fell open in amazement. An agency that offers holidays to other times, right here in my neighbourhood, between the sushi shop and the gelato bar. How is this place not in the news? The bus stopped at traffic lights. I craned my neck, looking back, and saw the truth. It was not a time travel agency. An ad for Time magazine had fallen against the window of a local travel agency. The rain, my short-sightedness, and my tendency to not be a grown-up had merged the words together. But for the rest of that day, I imagined the kind of promotions a time travel agency might offer. A stroll across the moors with Emily Bronte, a musical highlights tour from Beethoven to the Beatles and beyond. I pictured what I would do in the agency. I'd visit my teenage self and tell her, stop hiding, stand up straight and smile. You deserve to be in the world as much as anyone. Also, on no account should you get the Lady Diana haircut. Your hair is too curly, you will never ever be able to recreate that hairstyle, and you are about to subject yourself to years of tears as you try to tame it. And no, tying a shoelace around it won't help. I'd command her not to throw away her record collection, to buy shares in Apple, and to break up with that boy immediately. By the end of that day of daydreaming, I had decided to write a book about a time travel agency. So that's it for fiction. Then moving into some non-fiction, kicking off with food and drink. So, Lunchbox Bible. I was really fortunate that the baby food Bible was published literally on the day my son was born. So it was ready for us when he started solids, and it has served us very, very well, as it has fantastic recipes for kids from 0 to 2 and beyond. And now I'm very appreciative that Julia and Lauren are publishing Lunchbox Bible a month before he turns 2, so that we have a whole new range of age-appropriate recipes. Clearly, they timed it specifically for me and my family, which is very kind of them. I really appreciate that, guys. So Baby Food Bible has sold 41,000 copies through BookScan, absolutely massive, and we're expecting similar success for Lunchbox Bible. This is a fantastic resource for parents and caregivers with 75 recipes for simple, healthy, quick and tasty lunchboxes to please even the fussiest eater. They're mindful of allergies and preferences, so there are lots of substitutes and alternatives. And because both authors have qualifications in children's nutrition, you can be sure that your little ones are getting the nutrients they need to fuel all their adventures. They also cover things like meal prep, batch cooking, using up leftovers, food safety, and there's lots of kitchen hacks and other tips and tricks to make life easier. And honestly, I want to eat a lot of this food myself, so I will be stealing a lot of it from my son. Then Cook Green from Karen Martini. So everyone knows Karen Martini. You will surely remember her absolutely gigantic 912-page tome, Cook, which was published in August 2022 and covered pretty much everything you need to know for success in the kitchen. So we are splitting this behemoth book into smaller themed books, kind of similar to the small Donna Hay books that they did back in the day. And we're refreshing the content with some new photographs and design. So in May, we have the first 2 books, which is Green, that covers vegetable forward recipes, not necessarily vegetarian or vegan, but just, really promoting veggies. And then we also have Sweet, which covers delicious desserts. And then we'll have 2 more books in late September, which will be Fast and Slow. I feel like they're fairly self-explanatory. But yes, the Karen train rolls on. So very excited to have this new series, well, sort of new series from Karen. Then we've got Smoked Rice Water from Kishwa Chowdhury. So Kishwa is a second-generation Bengali migrant who was born in Melbourne and is passionate about preserving and sharing her heritage. She was a finalist on MasterChef Australia in 2021, and she's worked with Michelin-starred chef Masahiko Yamada at Ishizuka, and she also collaborated with celebrated chef Adam De Silva to create a modern Australian Bengali-inspired menu for iconic Melbourne restaurant Tonka. In Smoked Rice Water, she shares 100 recipes from the vibrant, interconnected, and culinarily, I don't know if that's a word, culinarily underrepresented region of Bengal. Then native ingredients every day. So following on from the success of her cookbook, Mabu Mabu, in 2022, Chef Norni Berra is back with a gorgeous book that introduces readers to 10 native ingredients, worked into more than 80 recipes for all occasions. Her aim is to get native ingredients into kitchens all over Australia by showing just how easy they are to use and how delicious and versatile they are. And with this book, one thing that I feel is sort of a bonus with it is the sort of recipe descriptions. She writes fantastically well. They are very funny. They're very clever. They're like little gems hidden among the recipes. So I very highly recommend this book, apart from the delicious recipes. Also a really fun read. Then we have Tramontana. This is a stunning cookbook exploring the lesser-known culinary region of Italy's northwestern frontier, along the ancient salt trading routes that wind inland from the Mediterranean, from the light and fresh dishes of the sunlit Ligurian coast to the hearty and sustaining fare of the snow-capped mountain regions. We've had really good success with some of these more sort of niche regional cookbooks like these, including Simon's previous book, Malta. So I'm really excited to see what Tramontana will do. Then into some biographies and memoirs. So Love Like This from Natalie Bassingthwaite. So fellow elder millennials, they describe us, will remember Nat Bass from her time on Neighbours in the 2000s, her role as the lead singer in the extremely cool Australian band Rogue Traders, and iconic performances in the theatre. Love Like This looks at behind the scenes at some of the darker areas of her life, including teenage pregnancy, abortion, grief, loss, divorce, and many, many challenges that she's faced. But it also celebrates moments of joy, grace, and renewal, new love in a queer relationship, self-discovery, and a newfound confidence. It's a well-written classic celebrity memoir from a beloved Australian famous face. Then perhaps a slightly less beloved famous face, we have Alan Joyce, memoir from him. So he's, of course, best known in Australia as the CEO of Qantas, especially during the COVID years, where the decisions that he made, which ultimately saw the airline through those years, earned him huge praise from some sectors and furious criticism from others. He is also the most high-profile openly gay businessman in Australia and was strongly supportive of the campaign for marriage equality. So whatever your opinion of him, he has an absolutely fascinating rags to riches story that will attract a lot of interest from the media and hopefully a lot of interest from readers. Then The Smallest Restaurant in Paris from Rachel Khoo. So Rachel was born in South London with Malaysian, Chinese and Austrian heritage and grew up with a love of food and creative cooking. She's known for her books, television work, including a judging role on The Great Australian Bake Off, and of course the incredible story of the one-table restaurant she ran from her tiny flat in Paris. So she says of this book, of her life, she says, at 25, I left a secure London job to chase my culinary dreams in Paris, armed with nothing but a whisk and unstoppable determination. From cordon bleu mishaps to hip-hop hangouts and buttercream-fueled side hustles, I navigated the highs and lows of creative life in the noughties capital of cuisine. The Smallest Restaurant in Paris is a warm, witty tale of grit, gastronomy, and one woman's journey from broke immigrant to hosting a sold-out pop-up with just one table, and a woman's journey, and a dream, sorry. I had a heartburning desire to tell my tale of chasing flavour over fear, a journey of courage, creativity, and carving out a place at the table when there wasn't one. So the book will also be accompanied by delicious recipes, of course, and some gorgeous illustrations from Rachel herself. So that's it for cooking. Hopefully that hasn't made you all too hungry. So we're into some general nonfiction titles now. So Leading from the Dreaming from Paul Callaghan. Paul is a truly inspiring author, speaker and leader belonging to the land of the Wormi people. In his award-winning 2022 book, The Dreaming Path, he introduced readers to knowledge that reveals that the power of Aboriginal spirituality is a profound source of contentment and well-being. In Leading from the Dreaming, Dr. Callaghan turns his focus to leadership and how the key to effective and ethical leadership can be found in Indigenous knowledge systems. We really feel that this is an incredibly important book from an absolutely phenomenal author, and we're truly proud to be publishing his work. And then we've got The Fair Share from Chantel Mila. She is a social media sensation with over 4 million followers across platforms who engage with her household tips and tricks for a more organised, less stressed home and life. However, like many of us, she's all too aware that the burden of domestic household chores is almost always divided very, very unevenly. I'm sure a lot of you are nodding, especially when it comes to the mental load, which is all of those unseen tasks that actually keep a household running. In the Fair Share, she presents a 4-week plan to transform your home life and get everyone in the household involved to really, share out these tasks and responsibilities and make it much more equal and equitable. I actually genuinely think this book will be life-changing for many, many families, probably including my own. It's a lot of things that I'd like to implement. So that's a really good one. When the World Sleeps from Francesca Albanese. She is the first woman to serve as United Nations Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territories. And here she's written an urgent, heartfelt, and deeply personal account of the current situation in Palestine. She lived in Palestine herself for many years as a reporter, following the legal battles of numerous Palestinian families, and has been invited to speak all over the world about her experiences. You might remember that she came to give an address at the Australian Press Club, National Press Club in Australia, which was incredible. If you haven't seen it, I recommend watching it. She is phenomenal. She's eloquent, bold, fearless, and an incredibly powerful speaker. So this book was originally published in Italian. She's obviously, with that name, she's Italian. And we're releasing the English translation simultaneously with PRH in the US. Then we've got How to Raise Rich Kids. So this is a book with a deliberately provocative title. It is not a book about raising entitled little shits in the lap of luxury, far from it. So Sarah Megginson is a personal finance expert who works for finder.com.au, and she's committed to helping Australian families raise children who are financially literate, who know how to budget, who know how to invest, how to plan for the future, so that they can, make the most of whatever opportunities come their way, and weather whatever storms come their way. So it's very much in the Victoria Divine kind of market. This is the kind of stuff that we really should be teaching in schools, and it's just absolutely critical information for the next generation. So excited to be publishing that. Then we've got Getting Murdocked. I'm honestly a little bit nervous to be publishing this because we know how far the Murdoch empire reaches and how ruthlessly they pursue their enemies, but you've got to be brave sometimes. In any case, this is a groundbreaking expose into just how far Rupert Murdoch and his cronies will go to destroy people who disagree or challenge with him, disagree with him or challenge him. It covers high-profile examples like Hugh Grant and Meghan Markle, as well as journalists, whistleblowers, progressives, ordinary people who just got on the wrong side of News Corp. It provides case studies across Australia, the UK, the US, Europe, historical and contemporary, and it's very meticulously researched and written. Will be a very, very interesting one. Then we've got The Dealmaker. So I am not an AFL fan. I am a Northwestern Sydney bogan who loves the NRL, but I know that some things are the same between codes, including the absolutely ridiculous deals that are made when it comes to player signings and exchanges. It's something that absolutely dominates the news cycle in the off season and a lot of the actual season too. And it's not just about money, although it mostly is about money, but there's a huge amount of networking, politics, slightly dodgy promises, and this is all around players who are often not even into their 20s yet. It's an absolutely fascinating world, and journalist Peter Ryan has teamed up with former AFL recruiting manager Scott Clayton for a behind-the-scenes look at this absolutely wild world of deal making. Then we've got Juicy from Cherie Joseph. So Cherie was a disappointed millennial standing in the ruins of the life she thought she'd have and that she thought she was supposed to have: a partner, kids, a plan, a timeline, a house. She is absolutely not alone. Young people are increasingly disillusioned with the world and the direction that things seem to be heading without any choice or agency of their own. But instead of wallowing, Cherie has written an inspiring, funny, personal yet deeply relatable memoir of coming to terms with what life could have been and what it really is, and how you can rewrite your narrative and live a life that's juicier. Then we've got The Actually Autistic Guide. This is a really, really wonderful one, incredibly important book written for autistic people by an autistic person, as a guide to living your best life in a world that really is often not very accommodating to neurodivergency. It's interactive, it's colourful, easy to understand, includes practical advice and activities, as well as crucial information and resources. And the author is a beloved personality with over 700,000 followers on social media. Oh, and there's some of the pages. Then we've got Conscious Tribes from Amanda Tattersall. So this is an inspiring call to action from the co-founder of social change website GetUp on how to make real difference and positive change in the world by harnessing the power of community. So Amanda looks at case studies from across the world in different settings and scenarios to show how ordinary people really can make meaningful change in society. And then into some kids' titles. So kicking off with a board book, this is a follow-up to Little Cloud, which is a favourite in our household. So we have Little Bug. This is an originating board book, so not a cut down, but it's very sweet, very fun, from Australian picture book aficionado Hardie McKinnon, that has what the publisher calls gentle peril. So it's just enough excitement to get toddlers, slightly razzed, but not frightened, and it has a guaranteed calm and happy and snuggly ending where everything works out okay. Then we've got one last leaf. We've got 4 picture books on this list that are particularly emotional and that you will need tissues for when you finished reading. They're absolutely beautiful. So the first of these is One Last Leaf from Patrick Guest and Jess Ratcliffe. This is a stunning, emotionally powerful, moving, absolutely beautifully illustrated picture book about love, letting go, and connection. It's really great for families experiencing grief and loss, but it's also just a wonderful creation for any reader. Patrick Guest writes books with such compassion and sensitivity, and Jess Ratcliffe's illustrations are absolutely breathtaking. Very, very beautiful. Then we've got The House That Walked Away. This is another very special picture book that has very strong potential to become a classic. It's from Australian creator Simon Howe, and it's the story of a house that never really feels like it belongs. So it gets up and walks away to find its own place. Eventually, the house comes across a family of people who are also looking for a home, so they go on their journey together until they realise that maybe home is a little bit closer than they first thought. I absolutely love this book. The story is super sweet. The illustrations are whimsical and beautiful, and they're really filled with movement and life and vibrancy. Then we've got a bigger book from Hannah Somerville. So Hannah is an award-winning picture book illustrator of books like Jetty Jumping, In the Rock Pool, and Market Day. And this is the first picture book that she's both written and illustrated. It's the story of Cora, who absolutely adores books, but as she grows older, she finds that her friends and classmates are moving on to older books, whereas she's struggling to read the words in her current picture books. It's an all too common struggle for young kids living with conditions like dyslexia, and many of these kids end up disliking books because they feel like reading is beyond their reach. This book really opens up conversations and insight, which is crucial to avoiding that sort of judgment and stigma that often holds these kids back. And it shows how a creative solution can make a huge difference. In this case, Cora finds a bigger book, literally. She finds a huge atlas that inspires her imagination and her love of adventure and maps, without being packed full of that text that she finds intimidating. So really beautiful, really important book. Then we have 2 new Claris books coming in August and September. So The Secret Ballet is a beautiful, smaller storybook following Claris as she helps a dancer to find the right ballet shoes. And then we've got Return to the Ritz, which sees Claris and her friend Monsieur the Cat rushing to help a bellboy at the Ritz Hotel. As always, the book's filled with fun, fashion, kindness, and a little bit of adventure. Then The Everywhere Train. This is another absolutely beautiful, touching, inspiring picture book about the power of memory, connection, and imagination. So this is from the creators of The Truck Cat, which of course was chosen for National Simultaneous Storytime in 2025 and has become a phenomenal success. Oh, the light has turned off in the room where I am because it's on a sensor. That's all right. I'll just present to you in the dark. It's fine. Oh no, there it goes again. Right. Sorry about that. So then into some junior fiction. A bit of adventure here in the office. So very excited that we have the news that Zac Power is coming to the silver screen in early 2027. So we are gleefully reissuing the whole series in bind-ups throughout the year. Very excited to be bringing Zac to a whole new audience. Then we've got Lamington Left Behind. This is the 4th book from our graphic novel imprint Figment, and it follows a young girl in a future dystopian Australia as she is stranded in the wilderness and learns to survive on her own. She befriends a group of animals when she discovers that she can communicate with them. She helps them to save their home, and she's reunited with her mum. It's a lovely, uplifting story from a really wonderful Australian creator. Then we have the next 2 books in the Ebb and Flow series. These are also very popular in our household. These are, just as funny and cute and silly as the previous 8 books in the series. What I love about these personally is that they are books that you can read over and over and over again, and they're, it doesn't get too tedious. I love how they've got, really small words, no sort of contractions in them. So it's, great for very early readers. But yeah, really fun characters and stories. And that's the previous 8 in the series there. Then very excited that Billy B. Brown is going into graphic novel form. So this is the first in the series that reimagines the Billy B. Brown Secret Mystery Club series in graphic novel form. And we are absolutely delighted that we have the original illustrator, Aki Fukuoka, on board again, working with Sally to bring it to graphic novel. Then we've got The Dragon's Snare from Rhiannon Williams. This is a new series from the absolutely brilliant Australian author Rhiannon Williams. They're shorter form middle grade fiction novels, releasing one every 6 months in a wonderful fantasy world filled with lots of adventure and amazing creatures and really fun characters. So we've got The Dragon's Snare that's coming out in April, and then we've got Jaws of Night that's coming out in September. Then Sagittarius Rising. This is a very fun and punchy and clever novel from beloved author Maxine Beneba Clark. I absolutely adore her, and she does extremely well for the indies. So very excited to see this one getting out into the world. Then we have The Apocalypse and Other Mild Inconveniences from Alex Dyson, Melbourne, former host of Triple J's Breakfast Show and now comedian. And this is, wonderful middle grade cli-fi with a lot of humour. Surprising how he manages to put those 2 things together. But really fantastic read. And the more Australian quality middle grade fiction we can get, the better. Then we have The Boy Maeve. This is a YA book coming from Hardie Grant Children's Publishing, and it follows Maeve, who is a 14-year-old trans boy growing up in the early 2000s, dealing with all of the challenges and difficulties that just being himself authentically, all the challenges that brings, but then throw in a dash of magic realism and some, Gaelic mythology and an imaginary friend who may or may not actually be some kind of Gaelic mythology spirit. It's got wonderful adventure and a wonderful heart. And I think in this kind of area, it's more important than ever to have representation for these kids. So that's it for kids fiction. Just got a couple of non-fiction titles. We've got Hide and Beak from Georgia Angus. This is a birdwatching guide for young birding enthusiasts. So how to spot all kinds of birds in your own backyard. Beautifully illustrated, of course, by Georgia. She's illustrated quite a number of books for us around birds and also just general Australian flora and fauna. But this is a really gorgeous one. And then we've got Welcome to Friendship. This is the 5th book in the series from Yumi Steins and Dr. Melissa Kang. They've brought us, of course, Welcome to Your Period, Consent, Welcome to Your Boobs, and I've forgotten the last one, Welcome to Sex. Of course, how could I forget that one? The one with all of the controversy, from books being burned in Big W and all that kind of thing, which actually ended up bringing it a lot of publicity and notice and made sales go crazy and brought a lot of crucial information to a lot of kids. So thank you, those people. Actually helped us out. So anyway, this is looking at the ever so complicated world of friendship. It is a guide both for kids and parents. I'm not ready to think about this yet. My son is not 2 yet. We'll deal with friendship when we get there. But yes, full of lots of information, real stories from kids, and wonderful illustrations as well. And that's just a quick look at the previous books. And then I just very quickly wanted to highlight a couple of our brands to you. So just to remind you truly how many books we have in the All Wrapped Up series. So to remind you that this covers wrapping paper books, as well as notebooks, note cards, with absolutely beautiful designs from Australian creators, as well as overseas creators. These are all available on the core range, and absolutely gorgeous. And then also to remind you that we now have the Australian Geographic kids books on our list, So yeah, wonderful non-fiction kids books from a really trusted name. We've refreshed the covers and some of the content of a lot of these books, and I think they really should be a staple in all bookshops. Wonderful for things like school prizes. Yeah, just really, really well done. So, and then I'll just leave you with this little teaser slide. Just look at that for a while and think, what could be coming? And that's it. Thank you very much.